We'd like to welcome you to the What Now Movement Virtual Business Summit. I, along with my co-founders, we are honored to have you watching and participating today. I am one of the co-founders. I'm Eric Twiggs. I'm your procrastination prevention partner. I'm the author of The Discipline of Now, and I'm the host of the 30-Minute Hour podcast.
And I am Dr. Sharon H. Porter, educator, author, publisher, host of the I Am Dr. Sharon Show, and co-host of the VMP Inspiring Our Community podcast.
I'm Ted Fells, president and CEO of Nucor Vision. I'm a business strategist, co-host of the 30-Minute Hour podcast, and also a co-founder of the What Now movement.
This pandemic, it's hit you with an unexpected situation. What now? So you can see our vision of the What Now movement is to build high-performing authors, career professionals, and entrepreneurs who are prepared for life's unexpected curveballs, because the bottom line, this pandemic will pass. But in the future, there will be something else. There will be another crisis. We want to make sure that you are positioned to seize the opportunity in what appears to be an obstacle. You can see right in front of you, we've got our vision. We want to create this international community that we're working with. And you can see that what our core values are as well. So that's a little bit about the movement itself. So now we'll move forward as far as what today's agenda is going to look like.
Absolutely. We have, again, such a wonderful packed summit for you. If you missed the first one, you're in for a treat because we have dynamic speakers again. We're actually going to start today with our very own partner, Mr. Eric M. Twiggs. His session is entitled The Discipline of Now, Your 5-Step Plan to Beat Procrastination. And then we have our first panel of the day, Leveraging Digital Platforms, a wonderful panel discussion with Nancy Waring, L. William Samuel, Sandra Harris Pittman, and Michael Sherlock. Our next presenter is Dawn Marie Bornhammer. Her session is entitled Leading with Empathy. Our last panel and last session of the day is Fireside Chat with the Founders. Ms. Karen McConnell Jones will be facilitating this wonderful panel discussion with the founders, Eric M. Twiggs, Dr. Sharon H. Porter, and Mr. Ted Fells.
Right now, we're about to get the show started with our co-founder, Eric Twiggs. Eric is the author of The Discipline of Now, 12 Practical Principles to Overcome Procrastination. He is also a host of the weekly inspirational podcast titled The 30-Minute Hour. As a certified life and business coach, Eric has conducted over 28,000 coaching sessions, helping executive leaders and entrepreneurs who have moved from feeling frustrated to finding fulfillment. He has also led organizations of 500 or more people in corporate America and shared his message with corporations, associations, and congregations across the country. By reading The Discipline of Now, you will receive a proven blueprint to beat procrastination so that you make more money, get more done, and become aligned with your divine purpose. So join me in welcoming my What Now movement co-founder, business partner, co-host, and just all around good friend, Eric Twiggs.
Thank you, Ted. Thank you. We are faced with the fact that tomorrow is today. We are confronted with the fierce urgency of now. Those words were spoken by Dr. Martin Luther King. And when I think about the urgency of now, just that phrase just inspires me. And it reminds me of an encounter that I had with my client, Mike. You see, in addition to writing books, I also coach business owners. And Mike owned his own automotive repair business. So he owned the business but he didn't own the building. And he would talk about how he wanted to leave a legacy for his family, but he was procrastinating. And I would get on him and he would say, Eric, get off my back. We've got plenty of time to focus on all that legacy stuff. Leave me alone. But finally, we got to a point where he was starting to make progress. And I was looking forward to our upcoming Monday morning coaching call. Monday morning rolls around. I call his shop. His service manager, Steve, answers the phone. Here's how our conversation went. Hey, Steve, it's Eric. Is Mike there? Hello, can you hear me? Is Mike there? Steve, hello, it's Eric. I want to talk to Mike. No, Eric. Mike won't be coming to the phone. This past Saturday, he suffered a massive heart attack and passed away. It was in that moment that I was confronted with the urgency of now. Because as it turned out, we didn't have as much time as we thought we had to leave the legacy that we wanted to leave. And as it turns out, neither do you. So it's very important that we embrace these principles that I'm about to share. The principles are based off of my book, The Discipline of Now, 12 Practical Principles to Overcome Procrastination. It's divided up into the cost of procrastination, the causes of procrastination, and ultimately the cure. That's how this presentation is divided. That's how the book is divided. And by now, you may be thinking, okay, Eric, thank you for sharing on this fine Saturday morning, but what is really in it for me? Well, here it is. If you embrace these concepts, you have the opportunity to make more money. We've got authors, we've got entrepreneurs, we've got career professionals. Whatever bucket you find yourself, you have the opportunity to make more money. You can get more done. Whether you consider yourself to be a chronic procrastinator, someone who procrastinates a little bit, or someone that really doesn't procrastinate at all, we could all benefit from improving our productivity. So you get the opportunity today to get more done, and you'll also become more confident. Because here's the thing, when you get to a place where you're consistently keeping the promises that you make to yourself, it builds confidence. And when you're in a state of confidence, you're positioned to succeed. So you'll see this confidence theme throughout today's presentation. But before we get into that, I really need to make sure you get this point. And if you're taking notes, please, and I would encourage you to take notes, by the way, write this down. Now, I mentioned this in the book early. Clarity is the starting point of success. So we're going to do an exercise. Just fast forward 5 years from now. It's June the 20th, 2025. 5 years is a magical time frame. It's been said that we underestimate what we can accomplish in 5 years, but we overestimate what can be done in 5 months. 5 years is a magical time frame. So think it's 5 years from now, you hopped in your DeLorean time machine and you're talking to yourself, you're saying, self, man, this has been the best 5 years I've had. The best 5 years as an author, best 5 years as an entrepreneur, best 5 years as a career professional. What does that look like? What are the 3 to 5 things that the specific outcomes that you need to see to feel like this has been your best 5 years? Or that'll be your best 5-year time frame. That's your vision. Those are the specific things that you want to accomplish. You need to get clear on what your ideal future looks like. And then we're going to take it a step further as it relates to gaining clarity. Is you're going to do what I call the Twiggs top 5. What are the 5 daily tasks? What are those 5 tasks that you need to do each day to move in the direction of your 5-year vision? So let's say you're at your desk at the end of the day, you take out a 3x5 card like this one, and you write out those 5 critical tasks that are going to move you forward in the direction of your dream, or in the direction of your 5-year vision, to make sure you're doing the right things. And I tell you what, just that in and of itself will build your confidence. And you can make sure that you're doing the right things and that you're getting those right things done. All right, let's jump into procrastination. By the way, procrastination is defined as putting off that thing or those things that you know you need to be doing. And we all know that. When you delay the things that you know you need to be doing. Let's jump into this. So let's talk about what has procrastination cost you. And it's critical that we cover the cost, because we know that there isn't always an immediate punishment that you feel when you procrastinate, right? It's not like you put off doing your assignment and then the procrastination police, they bang your door down and come and arrest you. So you think everything is fine. You start telling yourself, I work better under pressure. But you have to understand there is truly a cost to procrastination. We're going to unpack this. It's a silent killer. For example, not asking for the business. There's something that's called call aversion, where you delay making that sales call. You call reluctance is another name for it. You know you need to be making that call. You need to be asking for the business, but you put it off and you don't do it. And it ends up costing you an income opportunity. And there's a study done by the American Marketing Association. They've concluded that 68% of all business is lost because of a failure to follow up, a failure to follow through. So there's a cost, even if you don't feel it immediately, to not making that phone call, not following up on that business opportunity. And then you need to understand this, that I don't care what your situation is, you are only one great idea away from getting to the next level. And I talk to people all the time. Maybe this has happened to you. You have an idea for a business concept. It just hits you. This great idea, but you don't act on it. You have an idea for this book. You see the cover, you see the title, you see the concept clear as day, but for some reason, you don't act on the idea. You put it off. And then several months down the road, you see that someone else has moved forward and that idea is very successful, and you're kicking yourself. Like, man, I had that idea. You missed an opportunity. And you may not have felt it when you initially put it off, but it cost you. So you not executing that idea cost you on opportunities. Just look back over your life. How many opportunities have you missed out on? But there's a cost to procrastination. Now there's a study that was done by the University of Calgary. Here's what they found. 95% of people have an issue with procrastination. And Dr. Sharon, I believe that the other 5%, they haven't gotten around to completing the survey yet. This procrastination thing, it's serious. 40%, they've experienced a financial loss. And then 20%, they've procrastinated to the point where it's impacted their job and their credit. Again, there's a cost to putting things off. So next, let's look at some of the causes of procrastination. Think about your life. What are some things that have caused you to procrastinate and delay? I can tell you one of the most common causes is perfectionism. That means that you can't move forward. We can't move forward until we have all of the answers, until we have everything figured out, till we see all green lights. So for example, I'll talk to somebody, they'll say, Eric, guess what? I plan to write a book. I say, great, that's excellent news. I see them 3 months from now. I ask them, hey, how's your book coming? Oh, I'm doing research. I see them 3 months later. Hey, what's going on with your book? I'm doing research. Again, that's perfectionism. You're not always going to have everything figured out. please write down what I'm about to say. This will really help to deal with perfectionism. Are you ready? You got your pen out? You can't allow perfect to become the enemy of progress. Let me say that again. You can't allow perfect to become the enemy of progress. Sometimes you just have to take the next step. You may not have it all figured out, but often when you take the next step, the step after that starts to reveal itself. And then the step after that, before you know it, step by step, you're where you need to be. But perfectionism can definitely hurt you and cause you to procrastinate. Now, this is the most common cause, and we really need to deal with this, and that's fear. And the fear comes in different forms. You have fear of failure, you have fear of success, you have fear of the unknown. But think about it. If you're a career professional and you find yourself procrastinating on asking for that raise, if you're an entrepreneur, you find yourself procrastinating on asking for the business. If you're an author and you're procrastinating on writing your next book, just ask yourself this question. What am I afraid of? Quite often, fear is a root cause, and it'll cause you to procrastinate. So let's deal with this. I'm going to help you to deal with what might be holding you back. So we're going to unpack each of these fears. Here's a fear of failure example. I've experienced this personally. What if my presentation bombs? I went through this with Toastmasters. I used to compete in speech competitions, and I would feel just this high level of anxiety before I had to present. And finally, I had a speech coach. By the way, his name is Ed Tate, great speaker. And he shared with me this idea of, for every minute of your speech, that's an hour that you practice. So my speeches in those days were 7 minutes. My presentations were 7 minutes. So that's 7 hours of practice. So instead of focusing on the outcome of what was going to happen, I started focusing on the process. Did I practice the right way for my 7 hours? And the more I was prepared, the less I had to fear. So got to focus on the process, focus more on the process than we do the outcome. Here's the next fear. Maybe you can relate to this. What if I can't meet the new standard? Let's say you're a career professional, you're in sales, they're thinking about making you the sales director. And you're thinking to yourself, well, what if I don't really have the goods? What if I get that position and they figure out that I don't know what I'm talking about? It's a fear of success. It's very common, by the way. Here's what you need to understand. Competence builds confidence, right? There's that confidence word again. We talked about it earlier. So focus on becoming competent in your field. Focus on becoming competent in your craft, because that's what builds confidence. So here's a formula that'll help you. Be, do, have. I'm going to write this down. Be, do, have. You see, if I can become more, I can do more. And then if I can do more, ultimately, I can have more. And that just builds my confidence. If I know I'm focused on competence, I don't have any reason to fear success. And then there's the fear of the unknown. What if we get quarantined again? What if there's a second wave and then they start closing the non-essential businesses again? I've got these aggressive goals, but what if that happens? Here's what I have to say to that. Legacy and risk go hand in hand. You can't achieve a worthwhile goal without taking some risk. And I always have people, when people start playing the what if game, here's my response. Are you playing to win? Or are you playing not to lose? I would encourage you to play to win and understand that there's risk involved. We need to overcome these fears because that's a root cause of procrastination. Okay, so we're moving right along. We've talked about the fact that clarity is a starting point of success. We've talked about the cost of procrastination. We've talked about the cause, and causes of procrastination. Now we're going to talk about the cure. And this is my 5-step plan. This is the 5-step plan you've been sitting on the edge of your seat and waiting for during this presentation. And this came out of the book. It's the Procrastination Prevention Pyramid. I did this based off of the 28,000 plus coaching sessions that I've done with executive leaders and entrepreneurs. Let's get started with the plan. So the first step on the plan is your attitude. Now, I made attitude the foundation of the pyramid because your attitude is your foundation of your success. We need to monitor our self-talk. There's a great book by Dr. Shad Hemstetter. It's titled, What You Say When You Talk to Yourself. And he's concluded that the average person, 80% of their self-talk is negative. You have to be careful because it can turn you into a pessimist. And if you're a pessimist, you're more likely to procrastinate. There's a study that showed that an optimist will outperform a pessimist in a sales situation by as much as 50%. So pessimism can really hurt you. So we get this habit. We get this habit of negative thinking and negative self-talk. It's a bad habit. So the best way to break a bad habit is to replace it with a good habit. Here's a good habit: gratitude. Remember that 3x5 card I mentioned a little earlier? Get in the habit of using it to focus on all the things you have to be grateful for. Every day I write down 5 things that you're grateful for. I'm grateful for my health. I'm grateful that I have a job. I'm grateful that I'm a best-selling author. I'm grateful that I have a family. You have something to be grateful for. There's someone, I don't care what your situation is, there's someone who would trade places with you in a heartbeat. And we need to be aware of that. And here's something you need to consider when we talk about this gratitude and attitude. Try this when you get home. It is physically impossible to say something positive and think something negative at the exact same time. Try it when you get home. It is physically impossible. That's why gratitude is key to maintaining the right attitude. So next, let's talk about awareness. So the first thing you need to be aware of is your power times, or your power times. We all have this internal thing in our body. It's called a circadian rhythm. So you have energy peaks and valleys at certain times of the day, naturally. So if you're like me, you're a morning person where you get your energy and your juices flowing early in the day. So first part of the day, you've got your energy going. Or you might be a night owl where you really get going and jazzed up at night. Here's the key thing. You may want to write this down. The key to your success is to schedule your high priority activities during the time of day when you have the most energy. You have to recognize your power time. Very important. The next thing is people. You need to be aware of the people that you're around because behavior is contagious. Behavior is contagious. MIT, they conducted a study and concluded that the typical person's income is the combined average of their 3 closest friends. And on that note, I just want to update you that I just made friends with Oprah, Jay-Z, and Warren Buffett. So I'm feeling pretty good about that study right now. But behavior is contagious. And trust me when I tell you that if you spend enough time around 3 chronic procrastinators, you will eventually become the 4th. Behavior is contagious. Be aware of the people that you are around. And that'll help you to procrastinate less and move forward with the discipline of now. Next is animation. And that has everything to do with your energy levels. Because, people say time management, but it's really about managing your energy. And this guy, Thomas Corley, he wrote a book called Rich Habits, and he's got a blog, and he studies the most successful entrepreneurs, the wealthiest entrepreneurs who are self-made, to figure out what it is that they have in common. here's what he found. He found that 76% of them, they get 30 minutes of cardio 3 times a week because they know how important having energy is. Another book called High Performance Habits, written by Brendan Burchard, and he concluded, he did this study, and that the top 5% of the high performers, they're 40% more likely than everybody else to get exercise 3 times per week. I mean, think about it. You exercise, you feel better, you get your energy going, you get rid of those free radicals, slow down the aging process. And when you feel better, you procrastinate less. And then sleep is key too. And again, it was found that 89% of the wealthy, they get 7 hours or more of sleep. So very important that you recognize how important or critical energy is to your success. Next, we have automation. And let me tell you, I wish back in the day, someone would have told me what I'm about to tell you. You know, I was a district manager. I had 500 employees working for me, 17 locations. I wish someone would have told me this. Just because something has to be done, it doesn't mean that you have to do it. I wish someone would have told me that. So the key automation is about all of those things getting done, having a system in place to get so that things can get done without you necessarily having to make it happen. So what do your automation systems look like? One of the key things is to delegate. Don't be like, again, my thing was nobody can do it like Eric. But it got to a point where Eric was tired, Eric was frustrated, Eric was starting to feel burnt out. And so the key is, especially for the entrepreneurs and the authors, you want to remain in your zone of genius, right? So most of the things you're doing should be in your zone of genius. It could your zone of genius could be writing, it could be speaking, it could be coaching. But so what are the tasks that are outside of that? Can you delegate it? Can you put it on autopilot? There are ways to automate it. Put systems in place so that do you need to hire a virtual assistant? Do you need to put certain emails on autopilot so you don't have to touch them, but they still get handled? So very important that we learn to delegate, but coming up with a system for automation is key to your success. And then next, we have activity. Now, I put activity at the top of the pyramid because it's impossible to get to the top without taking action. You have to take action if you want to get to the top. And people are always coming up to me, Eric, oh man, I'm so busy. I have too much to do. I have too much on my plate. Well, let me tell you, here's what I found. I found that the real issue isn't having too much to do. The problem is not knowing what to do next. That's the problem. The problem is not knowing what to do next. So it's like you have to treat your daily tasks like an emergency room triage center. You have to take the triage approach. So for example, let's say you go to the emergency room, you've got a paper cut, your finger's bleeding, you're in the emergency room, and then 20 minutes later, someone comes in with a gunshot wound. They're going to take the person with the gunshot wound, even though they came in 20 minutes later, because the gunshot wound is a higher priority. So when you look at your daily tasks, what are your gunshot wounds? What are those priorities that need to get done? And oh, by the way, remember we talked about the Twiggs top 5 earlier. So the thing, if you're doing that consistently, you're focused on the things that are going to move you forward towards your ideal 5-year vision. And please keep this in mind that, and this is the 80-20 principle, 20% of the things you do are going to produce 80% of your results. So it's all, when you're taking action, when you focus on activity, the critical thing is to focus on the 20% that are going to yield you your 80% results. Very, very important. Okay, so now we're at the point of the presentation where you need to think about your takeaways. you've been taking notes this entire time, I would suggest writing a star or putting a check mark by the 3 most critical ideas that you received from this presentation, and really make those a priority and really commit to taking action in the direction of those priorities. So really focus on your takeaways. So at this time, I want to open it up for questions. I believe Dr. Sharon's going to come back and we'll talk about questions.
Absolutely. So the first question is, I'm always running late. What can I do to be more timely?
Interesting. So here, there's something that's called the planning fallacy, right? We're just, by nature, most people are bad at estimating how long things are going to take. We think we have more time than we have. So for example, let's say your destination is an hour away. So the natural tendency is to leave within 1 hour. But what we don't do is we don't anticipate that there's going to be traffic, there's going to be accident, or if you're in the DMV area, there's a rule that if it rains, you have to drive 10 miles slower. That's just like an unwritten rule. We don't anticipate that. So something you can do, if you do this consistently and you'll never be late, it's called the 50% buffer. Okay, so let's say, it takes you 60 minutes to get to your destination. You just add 50% to that. So you add another 30 minutes. So you would say, okay, I'm going to leave 90 minutes ahead of time. If you do that consistently, you'll never be late. And even if something is due in 30 days, give yourself an artificial deadline of, hey, I'm going to get this done within 2 weeks. My deadline is 2 weeks. And that gives you a chance to, because again, things always take longer than we think they will. Hopefully that answers your question.
Okay, very good. And then the next question, what technology tools do you recommend to improve productivity?
Yes, so there's several that I would recommend. So one I would recommend is called Coach.me. It's a habit tracking app. You can download it, whether you have an iPhone or an Android, and you can actually set your daily habits. And then every time you do it, you give yourself a check mark. And it's like you get that rush every time you're checking off, and you see you start to see a string of green dots. And you can also set reminders for yourself on this app to do certain things. And so you'll start getting push notifications that, hey, I need to write my blog post. Hey, I need to write my book. Hey, I need to make that sales call. So that's a good one. There's also an app, it's called Rescue Time. And it helps you to track how much time you're spending on the internet and social media. And when you start to see your times and what percentage you're spending where, it makes you more conscious. And then then it gets aggressive, because you can turn off the internet after a certain amount. You can say, okay, after 1 hour, just automatically eliminate my access. So those are 2 good tools that I use.
Last question is, what can I do to get my email inbox under control?
Yeah, that's a common one. So the basic thing you can do, and most of I know Outlook has this, and Yahoo, you can set up filters, right? Where certain emails just automatically go to certain folders without you having to touch them. So for example, like I have filters set up so that if you CC, you always have that person that has to reply all to everything. So that becomes a problem. It makes it challenging to manage your email, but you can set up like a CC folder. So anything, for example, that you're CC'd on, that can automatically go to your CC folder, because that's not as urgent. There's something that's called SaneBox, and they have like a free 21-day trial, but they can help you to, like, they'll organize like all the newsletters that you're subscribed to, for example, and then with one button, you can unsubscribe to a bunch of newsletters, and it helps you to keep your inbox in order and help you to feel like you've regained your sanity. So those are two common examples to help you to manage your email better. A couple of things as I close, just as a bonus, because you've been such an amazing listener and an amazing participant, If you text the number on your smartphone 474747 and you type in Twigs, you'll instantly receive a complimentary audio that's titled The Urgency of Now. And this is a podcast episode that Ted Fells and I did a while back, but we talk about time management and procrastination and some things that I haven't discussed during this session today. So please make sure you text in that number. I'll give it again real quick, 474747, and type in the word Twigs. And don't forget, you can pick up a copy of The Discipline of Now. Go to thedisciplineofnow.com to get your copy of the book, because in the book, I go into more detail and give you more strategies to become more productive and to beat procrastination. But as I close, I'm reminded of one of my favorite poems. And it was by Dr. Benjamin E. Mays. He was Dr. King's mentor, and it's called God's Minute. And it really just kind of brings everything into focus. Here's how it goes. I have only just a minute, only 60 seconds in it. Forced upon me, can't refuse it, didn't seek it, didn't choose it, but it's up to me to use it. I must suffer if I lose it, give account if I abuse it. Just a tiny little minute, but eternity is in it. It's my hope that I've inspired you to make the most of your minute so that you move with the discipline of now. Thank you.